Good morning, everyone. Greetings. So grateful that you all could be here with us today. We're going to give everyone a few minutes to get on in, but we have so much to discuss today, so I don't want to waste any time. If you're joining us on the West Coast, it is a bright and early 8:30 in the morning. If you're joining us from the East Coast, it's 11:30. And we are so grateful that you took the time on your Saturday to join us. The COVID vaccine got FDA approval on Monday, which was my birthday. And that was interesting news, considering that we were going to have a conversation today about National Immunization Month. So I found this information in an article, and I wanted to share it with you as we get ready to start our conversation today. According to Johns Hopkins University Coronavirus Resource Center, they have a chart listing the number of positive cases and mortality by country. So you can go onto their website and see this chart. The chart was last updated yesterday morning, August 27th at 6 a.m. In the United States, over 38 million cases of COVID-19 have been reported. Over 633,000 reported deaths from those cases reported. That is a mortality rate of 1.7%. Just let that number sink in for you for a minute. According to the CDC, we are still learning how well COVID-19 vaccines protect people with weakened immune systems, including people who take medicines that suppress the immune system, like if you have an autoimmune disorder. We're also still learning how long COVID-19 vaccines protect people. If you have a medical condition or are taking medicines that weaken your immune system, you should talk to your healthcare provider. You may need to keep taking all precautions to prevent COVID-19 disease. How many people have to be vaccinated against COVID-19 before the population can be considered protected? Population immunity. I know you've heard that, herd immunity. And how effective the vaccines are against new variants of the virus that causes COVID-19. But on the same page, the CDC also makes the statement, COVID-19 vaccines are effective at helping protect against severe disease and death from variants of the virus that causes COVID-19 currently circulating, including the Delta variant. If you are fully vaccinated, you can resume many activities that you did before the pandemic, but you should wear a mask indoors in public if you are in an area of substantial or high transmission to maximize protection from the Delta variant and possibly spreading it to others. You may have side effects after vaccination. These are normal and should go away in a few days. I found these statements made by the CDC to be a little confusing and contradicting, considering that mask mandates have been lifted in different states. But I also found this information in an article posted on blackdoctor.org. Most people think of vaccines this way. You get vaccinated and your immune system prepares to fight a virus or bacteria that enters the body. The vaccine serves as the catalyst to set up protection, prevent infection, and prevent you from infecting others. Unfortunately, it's not quite that simple. Not all vaccines work that way. And it's not actually what the two COVID-19 vaccines authorized by the US Food and Drug Administration, made by Moderna and Pfizer BioNTech, are designed to do. Their effectiveness is measured by how well they protect people against moderate to severe COVID-19 disease, not how well they prevent infection or the spread of the COVID-19 virus itself. Interestingly, although the shots are 94 to 95% effective in preventing disease, there is no definitive data yet that proves they completely shut down the virus enough to stop it from moving from an infected person to someone else. I.e., if that vaccinated but the infected person isn't wearing a mask or isn't keeping the recommended 6 feet apart from others, then they might have an opportunity to spread the virus. This lack of data explains why public health officials have said that even if you're vaccinated, you need to continue wearing the mask, remaining 6 feet apart, and avoid large gatherings, even if your guests are all vaccinated. start holding intimate dinner parties with your other vaccinated friends and family. You should always keep this in mind. Having a mask helps to slow the spread of the disease. I found this information in an article published by NPR. As the highly contagious Delta variant spreads through the US, COVID-19 vaccination rates have picked up, particularly in states hit hard by recent surges. But just 51.5% of the total population and 60.3% of those 12 years and older are fully vaccinated. As mutations lead to more infectious versions of the coronavirus and the number of daily shots in arms remains below spring highs, the US Food and Drug Administration move to give the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine full approval could boost those numbers. News of variants such as Delta spreading in the US has made about 1 in 5 unvaccinated adults more likely to get vaccinated, according to a Kaiser survey. But in the 3 months leading up to the Pfizer announcement, the survey showed relatively little change in people's vaccination plans, with 14% of US adults planning to definitely not get a vaccine, and about 1 in 10 planning to wait and see how the vaccine works for other people before getting vaccinated. So today, after sharing that data with you, I want to discuss what all of us are talking about around the water cooler and at our dinner tables at home: to get vaccinated or not to get vaccinated. And I'm not here to promote either way. What I'm here to do is, the guests here today are going to tell you about how cannabis, specifically cannabidiol, helps with recovery of the coronavirus, of COVID-19. And I have the amazing Dr. Denise Vidot, a cannabis epidemiologist, on today to talk about that. And I also have the amazing Dr. Kane on. He is a naturopath and herbalist, to discuss how do we fortify our immune systems? What do we need to do to get our immune systems ready for this variant? Since, like you heard, there is no vaccination for the variant, not yet. So with these variants still out there, how do we make sure that we're keeping our immune system strong and healthy and prepared for whatever may come, whatever other variants may come that already exist in other countries? And how do we get through this period in our history? How do we move forward? So thank you so much to my guests for being here today. Dr. Denise Vidot, I would like to start with you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. A cannabis epidemiologist. How do you even begin to get that title? Where did you start? Where was your beginning?
Wow, well, first of all, hello, Grand Rising to those on the West Coast, and also if you're waking up on the East Coast, Grand Rising. It's a pleasure to be here. A cannabis epidemiologist I am an epidemiologist by training. I graduated from the University of Miami School of Medicine. And the reason why I consider myself, why I am a cannabis epidemiologist, is because I use cannabis, or I study cannabis as different ways that it impacts human health in all these various diseases. So I'm not just focused on one disease or one clinical outcome. I'm thinking of the whole spectrum, from prevention, treatment, everything. So really, cannabis is such a versatile plant that it's the perfect thing to use for that. So yes, that's it in a nutshell. But as far as where I began, that's a whole nother conversation, I think. You're on.
I think a lot of people didn't even know that was a job that you could apply for. And so you, just to be clear, you study diseases and how cannabis can be applied to those diseases to help with recovery, treatment. Is that right?
Yes. It's either helping with their treatment or like recovery, or just how cannabis is impacting health, period. So I don't, especially with epidemiology, we don't really say cause or treat or cure. We're more like, okay, what are the relationships? So I have to clear the language first. But that's really what I study. How can cannabis interact with our bodies? And I do that. I don't want to get too deep yet because I know we're saying hello, but I do that with the endocannabinoid system. So I can't even say hello without saying that system, because that's the reason why cannabis works in our body. One of the reasons.
Right. Absolutely. Those phytocannabinoids work in harmony with our endocannabinoid system. So thank you, Dr. Denise. Thank you for being here. We're gonna dive in just a minute. And Dr. Kang, I would like for you to introduce yourself while we're doing introductions. Kind of give an idea of who you are and how you became an herbalist and a naturopath.
Well, good morning. Good morning. My name is Dr. Kang. I always like to start with my grandfather. My grandfather was a healer. People, presidents, kings, queens, they came from all over the world, when they were sick, and he knew how to heal them. I was born into what we call a shamanic family. My grandfather was very knowing of plant. If you showed him any plant, any herb on the face of the planet, he knew what to do with it. And to make a long story short, I was born, and they were looking for someone that was going to carry on this medicine, and no one was willing. And my father, I come from a family of, my father was a PhD holder. He was a professor in the university, so always wanted me to become a doctor. But, somehow, how destiny will have it, grandfather also had his own destiny. They realized that I was the one that was going to carry on this medicine. This medicine has been in my family for thousands of years. It's been passed down. My great-grandfather carried it, grandfather carried it. So it's been medicine. And so I found myself understanding plants like very few people have understood plants, looking at, chemical structure, molecular structure of plants, and just knowing I could take any fruit, any plant, and I could just explain to people without having to read the literature. And so going back to say before modern medicine, what did the indigenous people do? How did they heal themselves? And so grandfather coined a term called common sense medicine. Even when we're talking about, marijuana, as a plant to heal the human body. If we look even in nature, if you took a dog, if it was injured, if they had marijuana around, that would be the plant they will run to. So when science says, oh, they've developed all these amazing things, nature is the best scientist. And so I come from a place where it's common sense medicine. Animals, they show us so much. My grandfather said, if me and you, we had blood pressure, the plant, the herb that will grow around the building will be for blood pressure. This is the mercy of the divine. Animals have shown us, from the dogs, them walking, going to eat plants every single time when they're sick. So how do animals heal in nature? This is why I come in. How do they heal in nature? They have no pharmacies. They don't go to doctors. They don't go to wild animals. I grew up with lions and tigers, and I saw how they healed. And so every single science that man think they've advanced, nature has already done it. So this is where
already done it.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kang. I cannot wait to kind of really talk about how we can fortify our immune systems based on your research and your knowledge of just what the animal kingdoms, and we're animals. We're animals. And we're just animals that walk a different way. And so I'm so grateful that you had the time and chance to join us this morning. So real quick, I have a couple of questions. Recently, I came across a study regarding COVID-19 and the SARS-CoV-2 replication. Yes. And what cannabidiol can do to help with the recovery of COVID-19, of the symptoms of the virus. And Dr. Denise, I know that you are doing some great, amazing research in Miami regarding cannabinoids and how they can affect the virus once it's in a human body. Could you share with us a little bit about your research and what you are finding?
Yes, I can. Well, first, I'm very, very excited that research is getting published now for something that I think we all can agree we know a lot of information about. It's not news that cannabis has helped with inflammation and things like that. So I just want to first of all say that I'm just glad that finally we're getting some published results so that we can have this conversation from that. Secondly, one of the studies that my lab is conducting right now actually is an observational study where we're looking at those who are living through the pandemic, which is pretty much everyone in the world. It's called the International Cannabis COVID-19 Cannabis Health Study. And what we're doing is we're trying to see how cannabis use has changed, if at all, throughout the pandemic. And something that we have seen resounding through our results, and this is about 3,000 participants so far, is that they're using cannabis to help mitigate if they get symptoms, but majorly for the anxiety and depression. So I would say like 75% of the respondents were saying that they were using cannabis more often to help with anxiety and depression. And one of the things that we keep hearing that is associated with COVID is these after effects and the mental health impacts. And we all know what mental health can do to our physical body. With regard to adding to inflammation, adding to stress, the cytokine. One of the largest issues with COVID is the cytokine storm. So if knowing that stress increases the production of the things that create the cytokine storm, it's almost going to what Dr. Kang's grandfather was saying, it's almost common sense to think about this plant as a potential therapeutic agent. So I'll stop there because I know I said a mouthful, but that's how I feel. Dr. King, what do you think about that?
Well, I think everything, as you said, I always like to come from the layman's term, always going back to nature. There's so many studies that has always been shown, why my grandfather lived. Grandfather just wanted to show doctors and scientists a lot of different things when they'll come to Africa. Like, hey, if we injure this rat or this cat, if we injure this dog, whatever, there's some certain things. Just putting some certain plants in front of them, they will go and eat some certain things. They have this knowing. So I saw something where these animals were given like heavy metal in their system, right? They were given heavy metal, and the animals will go to the plants that will do chelation, that will actually remove the chelation out of their bodies. I make medicine. I make natural supplements. And people always ask me, what is my secret? It's just looking at nature. It's not rocket science. It is so simple that even a cat, a rat, if you take a baby rat, a baby snake, a baby monkey, a baby chimpanzee, right within their DNA, when they're sick, they don't go to their mom like, hey, mom, I'm sick. Every single animal is embedded with the knowledge on how to heal themselves. Their mothers don't heal them when they're sick. They come knowing. Just like when a baby is born, it comes out of his mother's womb, it takes a deep breath. Me and you, we've never been to school how to learn how to pump the blood, how to learn how to pump our heart. These organs are doing it. But as man become more educated and more smart, they've gone away so much from nature, where science has to teach us how to eat. Animals are not doing that. So even as a shaman, as a healer, as a naturopath, I'm always observing nature, right? And so I'm very happy that, finally, for which, 99% of the population, sometimes they need that science, which is a good thing. Not a lot of people come from my background, that they're actually doing all of this research and they're starting to approve a lot of these things, for the general well-being of the people. I think that is a plus.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I'm so grateful for you type of doctors that are out there doing this research, even though it's not federally funded. I know that you have to get some private funding in order to do this type of research. And what is it exactly? Yes, the anxiety, of course, we know that helps with the recovery process, because if your body is filled with anxiety over, you're scared of death or even worse outcome after you have the disease, that increases your stress levels, increase your cortisol levels, increase, and that weakens your immune system. And we forget that how much anxiety affects, how much our mental affects our physical. And so what other ways could you explain for us, can cannabidiol or the cannabis plant actually have an effect on your anxiety level, on your mental capacity to process the disease, and then understanding how you're going to recover from the disease? And this could be any disease.
Yeah. I actually have some figures about that, so I can perhaps show it on the screen here in a minute here. But what I would like to show is, first of all, when I started introducing myself, I was talking about the endocannabinoid system. This picture here shows what happens when you have COVID, right? So here you'll look to the left where it says SARS-CoV-2. That's a picture of the actual virus. So remember, COVID itself is the actual infection that people get once the virus, becomes at a certain level in your body. So the COVID-19 infection itself, let's say it has 3 opportunities once it comes by your cells, right? One is immediate cell death. That's an option. But the other 2 options, eventually, I'm not going to go too deep into the picture, but the other 2 options both wind up in cytokine production. And we know that excess cytokines create what's called a cytokine storm. And that I like to call a party that nobody wants to be at. So these cytokines, it's like a huge inflammation, they call it an inflammatory cascade. It's so much inflammation. So fast forwarding, you'll notice that on this same picture in the middle, it talks about all these processes lead to tissue damage. Well, what organs are being damaged? Let's look at the pictures. Lungs, your GI tract, your brain, cardiovascular, liver, kidneys. You see these organs, right? Well, let's move to the next picture. The reason why cannabis is a potential opportunity to help or to manage or to recover, which there's still data being, collected. So as an epidemiologist, I can't make those claims, but what I can say is that we all have an endocannabinoid system. This system has a series of receptors, and I'm only showing 2 receptors in this image. There's other receptors and there's other processes that it's involved in. But what's so exciting to me as a scientist and as a healer is that CB1 and CB2 receptors are located on on all of the organs that I just showed you that are impacted by COVID-19. So when you think about how cannabis, when the question is, how can CBD assist or how can CBD impact? Let's think about these pictures that I'm showing. I just showed what the virus does. I just showed the organs that are impacted. Here we can all see these are the organs that have the opportunity to receive the phytocannabinoids, which is what CBD is at the end of the day. So I hope this picture has helped out to show a visual of how cannabis can help. Nicole, I'm not sure that we can hear you.
We can hear you.
But usually I have that effect after I show that image. It's usually pretty quiet for a few minutes, so it's right on target.
We can hear you. I can hear you. No?
No, I think you're physically muted. It's a systematic. But in the meantime, I guess I could just continue to talk about that, just digging more. Or do you have any comments first, Dr. Kane?
I think everything you're saying makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It goes.
I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Welcome back to the party.
Thank you for your patience. Technical issues here. So what's fascinating about that image that you showed is, in my research, I understood that the mortality rate from COVID usually has to do with comorbidities. And it's because those comorbidities, the virus attacks the body and its organs. And if you have COPD or high blood pressure or diabetes or any of these other comorbidities, those are usually what cause the virus to attack the body so hard. And is that true? Am I correct in saying that?
Well, just the word cause is very spicy for an epidemiologist to agree with.
Okay.
So, there's reports of associations, but to say the word cause, I personally refrain from agreeing with those kind of statements.
Okay, got it. So you would say in partnership with, if they're
or associated with,
associated with,
presenting with.
Got
Correct.
it. Okay. So if you have a comorbidity and the virus gets into your system, it makes it a lot harder if it's attacking these organs for your body to recover. And phytocannabinoids can help with that recovery. That's what I do understand. Is that correct?
Due to the endocannabinoid system.
Yes, the endocannabinoid system, such a vital system. And it's so funny because when I go to my doctor, I usually spend a lot of time explaining to them about the endocannabinoid system. Not too many doctors are versed in understanding it or how to treat it, which is interesting. But your research, Dr. Vido, what else have you found in regards to using cannabidiol that can help and assist with recovery?
Yeah, well, some of the other things that we've noticed is that, and again, we're not talking about treating or anything like that. These are just observational results that we're seeing in this cross-sectional study. But we do see that the participants who endorse cannabis use, particularly CBD, because we did ask the specific ratios and if they knew the cannabinoids, they were showing less prevalence of the symptoms. So we see, in thinking of that article that you brought up earlier, that I believe was at the University of Chicago, they also compared some of the patient data and noticed that patients who were using CBD had lower prevalence of COVID-19 infection. So it's just interesting to see that among medicinal cannabis consumers in my study, in addition to the University of Chicago, we're seeing a very similar result in that the prevalence of especially the more severe outcomes of COVID-19 are lower in those who endorse CBD.
And we're not saying that everyone should go out and smoke the biggest hemp joint or cannabis joint that they can find. What you have to understand about how to get those phytocannabinoids into your system, that smoking it or burning it is not the best way. Am I correct in saying that?
Correct.
Yeah, usually a lot of people, especially in the last 18 months, people have been asking me, what should I do to help fortify my endocannabinoid system, make sure that my endocannabinoid system is strengthened so that it can help assist my immune system. And I recommend using cannabis, the flower, in a way that you would use any other herb, which is to steep it in warm water, not boiling water, especially since we know that the virus doesn't like hot liquids, but using it in a tea, steeping it in a tea. That way you're not burning off those cannabinoids or terpenes that can be used medicinally. And you're preserving your cannabis, your flower. You're not using as much. But in my understanding of how and the best ways to get cannabinoids into your system, besides a tincture or some type of elixir, I usually don't recommend edibles because they're so full of sugar. So unless you're making your own edibles and controlling the amount of sugar, or if they're plant-based, usually most edibles are not plant-based. So that's the best way that I recommend. Or if you have a machine like a Da Vinci that can vape the flower, which means it heats it up in a glass oven, in a ceramic oven, and you inhale the vapors that come off of it. So you don't burn it. But it's still a safer way or an easier way for you to get those cannabinoids without including the toxic way of smoking it. And what are your thoughts on that, Dr. Denise and Dr. King?
My immediate thoughts are that's so exciting. I'm so happy you brought that up, because one of the results from our study was showing that users were actually refraining from smoking in a blunt, smoking in joints after the announcement of the pandemic. So we had a large increase in edible use, tinctures, and tea. I'm so happy you brought up tea, because with tea, you can also blend other herbs, which I'm sure Dr. Kane can help tell us what can influence that. But definitely, I'm wholeheartedly agree with the not smoking route. I yield.
Dr. Kang, what are your thoughts about that? Are you recommending any other herbs that can be used in this tea along with cannabis to help fortify your immune system?
Well, yes, synergy. When you're healing the body, even nature has always shown that, putting cannabinoids, together with other things, just like sometimes we drink cocoa, and put some other herbs in there, maybe like moringa and other things that we might find that always combining herbs, it amplifies the synergetic effect, where you can get a maximum amount of result. So, yes.
Absolutely. And I know that there are plenty of herbs, especially native to the Caribbean and Latin America and Africa, that have these are considered superfoods that actually can help to strengthen and fortify your immune system. And so, Dr. Kang, let me ask you a little bit more about what can we do as a race, a human race, to help to fortify our immune systems. I know that some people are going the vaccine route, but there's also ways that you can, through nature, help to fortify your immune system. And that's through the food that we eat, absolutely, as well as a variety of herbs that, like you said in the beginning, God provides for us. We have a question here. Could you tell us a little bit more about herbs like mullein, elderberry, licorice root, in boosting immune systems against COVID?
Well, yeah, the way my grandfather always answered this question, because I always like to come from that standpoint. He was a man who've never been to school, but, kings and queens came and he was able to heal them. And he always said that we should always look at what nature provides. So if one was in nature, there was no plant, there was nothing. So the things that we do on a regular basis, right? We drink water, the food we eat, reducing our stress, getting a lot of vitamin D3, getting a lot of sun. These are things. So how do animals heal in nature? Animals, they heal through a process called purging. No one talks about this process. When an animal is extremely very sick, it will eat grass. Even the ones that are not grass eaters, they'll throw up. If they're extremely very sick, if the throw up doesn't work, they will stop eating. They'll go into what we call fasting. They'll dig the earth, they'll lay there, they'll stop barking if they bark. If whatever they do, they'll stop every form of action and they'll do nothing. And within a few days, we'll think they're dead or whatever, and then they'll wake up, they'll be vital. So they'll close their eyes. The act of looking requires a lot of energy. The act of talking or eating requires a lot of energy. The act of moving around requires a lot of energy. And so when they stop doing all these things, all this energy will be internalized within. And so man is always forgetting to know that God's ways or the divine's way is always, nature's way always works. We're always looking for what we can take all the time, but instead of doing nothing. It's called the law of least effort. I do nothing, I accomplish everything. This is how God heals. This is how nature, animals, they show us this all the time in nature. And so I think as the human race, we need to begin to partake, because the people don't have access to none of these things. So if one is sitting in jail, how can they heal themselves if they were sick, right? They have no access to nothing. The best way they can heal and boost their immune system is through fasting. Fasting has gone way back before me and you, were even born. This is the ways of the ancestors. This is the way of the ancient ones. This is the ways of even some of the greatest doctors, whoever lived and whoever evolved. So the goal is do nothing and just be, and your immune system, will do what it does best.
Wow. Yes, I was, coming from a Catholic background. Fasting is part of what they do. And so that was the first time that I was made aware of fasting. And then I got introduced to fasting in a different way when I began this journey of healing naturopathically. And that opened up my eyes to a whole new world of how to heal. I feel 100 times better when I can intermittently fast throughout the day. And then when I can go days with just water and my herbs, sea moss, and all those minerals that your body needs, I really can feel the difference, the mind clarity, how my body feels, from my urine to everything else that comes with it. Fasting has been amazing. And I'm so grateful that you mentioned that, because a lot of people, at first I was scared. I wasn't sure how I was going to go a day without eating food, as much as I love food. But then I realized that fasting was more about the mental and the spiritual the spiritual healing and fulfillment that I got from fasting was worth it. And so I recommend, anyone that is looking to continue their healing journey, consider fasting. Consult with your doctor first. Consult with your doctor, because if you're on medication, some of those medications require food before you put it on an empty stomach. So consider those things before you start a fast. But I absolutely agree with you on how beneficial a water fast with herbs and sea moss can really help benefit the body.
We
Another
have
thing,
we have to
yes.
also understand that as the human race evolved or whatever, fasting is a natural thing that we're doing at every single moment. People were hunters and gatherers. And so when they found food, they ate. When they didn't find food, they went throughout, the day or whatever. And then when they found food again, they indulged or whatever. There wasn't just food just readily available as it is now. And because, we have, microwave food, everything very fast. They've given us the iPhone, everything. People want things very, very fast. People cannot even conducing themselves, not eating within a certain amount of time. But even when we go to bed, we're fasting. And so fasting is a natural thing that every single species it's doing at every time. The lion, when he's able to catch whatever his prey is, it eats. When there's no, and then, it goes through a stage of fasting. So nature by law, it's fasting at every single moment.
I have to tell, I know this is anecdotal, and I know I'm representing epidemiology here, so I shouldn't be talking about anecdotal evidence, but I have to say that I'm so glad that you said that about fasting, because that's something that I tell every single one of my study participants every time that somebody asks me about what it is that they should be doing. Fasting is number one. I personally was diagnosed with lupus a few years ago. And it was not, I was there, and the first thing that they always want to do is say, oh, take these pills, get these shots. I was like, you want me to do what now? And I was, sorry, I was just like remembering it is getting me like overwhelmed. So the point is that it wasn't until I started fasting and getting back to nature and really understanding the endocannabinoid system and just other systems and why plants are literally so important. My favorite meal used to be steak and eggs back in the day. And not even back in the day, this was 2018, 2019. And I was having so many flare-ups with lupus, so many. And it really took me almost dying for me to listen to nature and learn about fasting, about meditating. If you look at me on social media now, you would think I've been meditating my whole life, but it's not. It was out of necessity. So Dr. Kang, you really spoke to my spirit. I just want to tell you when you said that, because that's so prevalent. It's so relevant to this conversation, because with COVID, I also had COVID. I had COVID twice. And so as a lupus patient plus COVID, that's why I'm so loud now. Before I was quiet when it came to cannabis and COVID, quiet when it came to fasting, because that's not something that there's so much clinical evidence. It's not very easy to measure that in studies. But the fact of the matter is, you can't question nature all the time. So I just want to put it out there that fasting works. Fasting is important. And I just know from my personal journey, fasting is what helped get not only fasting from speaking and eating certain things, but becoming a plant-based vegan. So this conversation is about plants and other ways to heal from COVID. And I strongly recommend a vegan lifestyle, plant-based, because vegan, you could be a vegan eating French fries and Oreos all day. But I mean a plant-based.
No processed foods.
I think we all have similar stories. I ran away from my calling, and I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to become a doctor. I didn't want to, pursue this path. And myself, I got very sick, and through fasting, I had to fast for a couple of days, almost 30 days. And that's how I was able to regain my own insanity back. And so, Western medicine, I took them all, the blood pressure, the diabetes, the cholesterol, everything you can imagine just to feel better. But through fasting, going, changing diet, going vegan, I'm talking about eating raw food and juicing and understanding, all of these things. Through that, or whatever, I was able to see the light when it comes to health. And so, yes, it's for me, it's the only way. It's the way that brings, as my grandfather said, everything that's dead has to be buried. You can't take dead things and put in your body and have life. And this was a man who never went to school and treated some of the best doctors in the world. So yeah.
I'm in total agreement with both of you. You both know my journey. I am an HIV survivor, warrior, fighting to eradicate HIV from my body. And Dr. Kang is helping me with that process. And Dr. Denise, I would like to be able to start a research with you that talks about how to heal naturopathically, because in Western medicine, we're not taught, the doctors aren't taught, medical caretakers are not taught that you can heal. You're in remission if you have cancer, you're undetectable if you have a virus like HIV that lives in the blood, but never completely can you eradicate it. And just like Dr. Kang mentioned earlier, you know, any of you who have a dog, any of you out there who are dog lovers or cat lovers, but when you see a dog is sick, when you see your animal is sick, what do? Especially dogs, they go out to the yard and they eat some grass so that they can get that the plant helps the whatever's in their stomach that's making them feel bad, it helps them to bring it up. So yeah, they don't need to go see a doctor. They know exactly what to do. They know exactly where to go and what plant to find to help them through that process. And then in a couple of days, they're just fine. They throw up, they pass it through their bowel movement, and they're fine. They might not eat for a couple of days. And I know.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you. I just want to.
No. Go ahead, Dr. Kang. Yes.
If we look in nature, among all the animals, human beings are the most sickest. With all of our science, we've created the automobile, been to space, we've created all these amazing things. We know nothing about our bodies. And we're the most sickest species. And, you know, sometimes we want to think, oh, we've advanced so much in medicine. But animals, every day, they're healing themselves. So man has to stop this nonsense and look to nature and see what all nature is doing. And how come we have so advanced and we're the most sickest species, you know, in the whole animal kingdom. How can that be? Until we begin to ask these kinds of questions, then man will forever keep being very sick and thinking, oh, we need approval or whatever. The animals, they're not needing anyone's approval. The lion is not needing anyone's approval as of what, you know, they should eat or what they should do on how to heal themselves. These animals have an intelligence. What has happened to the human race? We've lost this key vitalization of ourselves. Every animal is their own doctor.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I think that a couple of takeaways, we are, you all are the doctors and the professionals, and have done this research and this study, but we're also living and walking testimonies. I'm not a doctor, but I'm a walking testimony to the power of the healing power of plants. And I know that you both have experienced what fasting can do. And I hope you all that are listening out there consider that as an option on your healing journey. All of us collectively are proof of how beneficial fasting and meditation and really focusing on the food that you're putting into your body. All of us are plant-based. And so obviously we're advocates for plant-based medicine. And the medicine is not just cannabis. You can't eat cheeseburgers and Oreos all day, or even vegan cheeseburgers and Oreos all day and think that you're going to be able to heal your body. That's not the way that it works. So you have to be mindful that what we put into our bodies is our medicine. And so if you're putting dead things, like Dr. Kang said, into your body, like Dr. Denise said, if you're putting processed things, white sugar is worse than cocaine. It's perfectly legal, and they put it in everything. And they even were the lobbyists for sugar in the 70s were smart enough to change the name of sugar. So now in ingredients, you might not see sugar, but you will see high fructose corn syrup, which is liquid sugar, just more processed than white cane sugar. So understanding those things and being mindful of the food that you're buying for your family, for you and your family, can either be deadly, toxic, or it can be healing and healthy. And knowing the difference is very important. And that's why I wanted to have you all on today as walking testimonies to the power of healing plants. I wanted to talk real quick before we go, Dr. Denise. I know that you have a website that you'd like to share with us. Can you tell us a little bit more about your website?
Yes, thank you for that. This is a study that we're doing, and I'm very excited to talk about it because it's very rare that cohort studies are really funded. Cohort studies where you follow people for a long period of time. And I'm very excited because the Herbal Heart Study is the very first in South Florida to be able to look at how cannabinoids themselves and the route that we consume them impact heart health or cardiovascular risk. So if anyone's interested, and if you live in South Florida and you want to join the family of the study, feel free to go to that website. But also following on Instagram, you can see when we have events and things like that. So thank you for this opportunity to share about this study.
Doing this study, we don't think about how the numbers. Could you give us maybe a quick stat about how heart disease affects different races and sexes? I know that women are more affected by heart disease.
Yeah.
Do you have any of that available for us?
I can just say the exact numbers I don't have immediately on my hand, but like you mentioned, women have the highest prevalence, and then especially mortality. It's like a silent, it could be called like a silent killer. So
Right.
Cardiovascular disease, and then even let's bring it back to COVID. The majority of patients that are dying from COVID or the comorbidities is with the heart disease or heart complications. So it's so important. The heart is really the center, and spirit. I feel like that spiritually and physically. So it's really important to study what can impact it. And cannabis is something that could help, or in some people it might hurt it, depending on how they're using it. So it's very important how you use your plants.
And I'm going to add from, a shamanic standpoint, people always come to my grandfather and always said, why do women have a lot of heart illnesses? And he always said, because two men can fight, forgive each other. Two women fight, they can't forgive, one another. Women, they hold more grudges, over things. Men can fight, go drink, and do a lot of different things. And so be one of those women that is easily let things go and easily forgive.
That was for me. Thank you, Dr. Kang. I appreciate that.
That was for both of us. Your heart is your center, and protecting it is important. And so that means letting things go. Forgive yourself. Forgive others. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Absolutely. And I know, Dr. Kang, that you have developed a drink using cannabidiol. Can you tell us a little bit more about your drink?
Well, yes, when the cannabis craze was all, states were approving, cannabinoid, when people were just getting into it, I was trying to look for a way to be able to have it appealing to our people, to our community, because my community, my people, they're always the last, every other culture or whatever, they always get into the game and make it properly to make sure that their community, their people have access to it. So I was looking for a way to be able to bring this to my people in a way where they will not look at it, because we've been so programmed that, it's drugs, it's this, is that, right? But most people don't understand that, the CBD is the non-psychoactive ingredient in the marijuana plant. And so I was looking for a way to be able to have it delivered. And so I decided to put it in a drink where I mix other herbs. People asking, what do you do with, I was able to take the CBD and put moringa and put, some of the sea vegetables like spirulina, chlorella, and green tea. So people can be able to consume this and get all the different benefits that other cultures and communities who've been using, the CBD have been getting. And so I developed this drink called the Black Panther energy drink. And so it's available in the market. And, if anyone needs it, they can also go to our website, grandpasecret.com.
Thank you for that, Dr. Kang. And Dr. Kang is staying humbly over there, but his gift that he has received from God helps him to help people. And I know that my gift of gab and my love of research and understanding is also a gift from God that can help people find the truth and help people find their way. And Dr. Denise, I so appreciate you being able to give your true testimony and tell us how plants and plant medicine have affected your life for the better. I was hoping that we would have a conversation today about how we can, as people, as human beings, help to fortify our immune systems, help to strengthen our bodies, because this variant and this virus will not be the last. It wasn't the first, and it won't be the last to come around and try to, take out as many of us as it can. But there are things that we can do to help prevent mortality, to help strengthen our minds and our spirits and our bodies. And that's what I wanted to kind of discuss today. And I'm so grateful for both of you sharing your story, to being very transparent about your journey, because more of us need to be talking and having this conversation about how we found our way to healing. And I know as a research scientist, Dr. Denise, that you might not, there's some verbiage and some words that you might not be able to say, but you are a living testimony. You know the power of plants, and can say, based on your own research of your own body, what that can do. And I know, Dr. Kang, you have story after story to share with us about the people that you've also been able to help with a plant-based diet, with spiritual healing. And so I want to, before we leave today, I just want to make sure that Dr. Denise, using cannabidiol, would you say, based on your research, that using a isolate of the compound has shown better results? Is that what you're using, or is that what the research has found? Or is there research out there that shows how full spectrum hemp or cannabis plant with a high CBD component can also help? Is there research out there that shows that yet?
Yes. So that's thank you for that question. And I'm sure my face showed that I thought it was a nice question here. But everybody is different. Everyone is different. And in nature, it's very rare that you're just going to get an isolate of CBD by itself. So I'm just saying that there's not, although there is research that's ongoing, let's just put it that way, but it's really hard to say whether it's published. Let me take a step back. I like the synergistic effects, and I think that the majority of the research that I've seen and the conversations that I've had within my participants, the full spectrum is better because of that ensemble effect, because you have the terpenes, the other cannabinoids, although they may not be the primary ingredient per se in that particular plant. The fact of the matter is, to have one cannabinoid working by itself is not always the best way. However, in some patients there might be, so I just, again, we don't make all types of statements encompassing everyone. But if you ask me, based on what I've seen with my research and research that I'm aware of, full spectrum, whole plant, because of the synergy of the other cannabinoids.
Go ahead, Dr. Kang. Go ahead, Dr. Kang.
I'm going to add to what she said. And so very, very important. My grandfather always said, why do you put 33 herbs together, right? And he always said that before we came into planet Earth, what if we fought with one of the terpene and they said, in this lifetime, I'm not going to work for you. So this is why we need so many to put them, because man is a natural born scientist. So putting more together in a synergetic effect is able to, it's like taking, petals and try to throw it in a cup, right? If you took just one, you're likely to miss. If you took so many and you throw it, right, you're likely to gain. So I'll just add that.
Yes, thank you for that. And Dr. Kang, I know we talked about cannabis today and cannabidiol, CBD, and its effects with helping to fortify your immune system and your endocannabinoid system. Do you have any other recommendations for herbs You know, a lot of people in the last year, I remember there was a shortage on elderberry. There was a shortage on echinacea. Couldn't find it anywhere. So are there herbs that you recommend in general?
I think she's gone. I think we lost her.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. So I was asking Dr. Kang, do you know of any herbs, or can you recommend any herbs that you would say we as human beings could utilize every single day to help fortify our immune systems?
Well, yes, the way my grandfather answered that question is that, you know, healing has to be universal, right? So if one was in Colombia listening to us, in Africa, in North America, whatever, so we want to always approach healing from this standpoint. What are the things that are available for everyone? What are the common things? That's what I was talking about. I don't, you know, I'm like a compound scientist, so I put herbs together. I don't like to just throw one herb out there because some things might not work for some people. And so this is the whole idea of people sometimes, oh, I'm taking this herb, but they're still sick, right? And so the goal is to find what they call the common denominator, go to the etymology, the root of healing, finding that one thing that, oh, if someone was somewhere in Colombia, what is it they could do? How do they heal themselves? And that's why I always go back to how animals heal themselves. If they were even in isolation, how would they heal themselves? We're likely to eat. So eating right, people eating right, you know, getting the sunlight, reducing their stress level, walking. Yeah.
And it's good that you said sunlight, because there's evidence that shows that sunlight is good for COVID as well. So you don't even need to take all these vitamin D supplements all the time.
Beautiful. So I'm going to add to that also that even in nature, right, all the animals that lives in holes, the ones that lives under the water, they live wherever, on the trees or whatever. When it's sunny, they all come to the top to get sun. What has happened to the human race where we're being told that, oh, sun is bad for you? Every animal in nature, when it's sunny, they come. I try not to look at what man has to say. I'm always looking at nature, and it has guided me up to today, to where I am. I look at people like my grandfather who live up to 100 and something years or whatever, never been to school, and scientists used to always come to learn at his feet. And you explain to them the concept of things and how plants and different things, you know, how they interact and how they work, even things like fungi, you know, their network, all those things. That could be another topic, you know, that we could talk on.
As you said that, I literally was just wondering if I should bring up the fungi. So the fact that you did made me pretty happy. So we're in alignment. But you're right, nature.
Yeah, I think that should be a topic we can talk about because, yeah, I get excited talking about mushrooms.
Especially with the technology that's inside of the mushrooms, I like to call it, because it's already within us. Within us. It's
yes.
unlocking.
Yes. Everything in nature is already within us.
What?
Yes.
Well, hello.
Hey, everybody. I think we might have lost Nicole. She might be having some difficulty, but I've been backstage enjoying the conversation. You guys have been really, you know, laying on a lot of good knowledge and information for our listeners. So I appreciate that. As we go ahead, I think we might be able to get her back. We'll try one more time, but if not, I would, you know, just ask you guys any lasting thoughts. And you know how if someone wanted to get involved with something that you are working on, whether research or you know, to reach out to you for services that you offer, if you could just let people know where they can reach out to you and connect with you.
Dr. Kane, would you like to go?
Yeah, you can go.
Oh, okay. So you can find me. I forgot I was just so excited. So basically, I forgot the question. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Vito. But my lasting words, I think what I would like to end with, before even where you can find me or how to get involved, I just want to make sure. Hi, Nicole. Welcome back to the party.
Thanks.
Would you like to say something before I give my?
No, go ahead, Dr. Denise. I want you to continue. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say that You know, we can talk about all these things to, you know, treat and manage COVID. But I really just want to remind everyone that, like Dr. Kane was saying, it's already in us. We already know. So just get back to nature, get back to not listening to other people, and even don't listen to me. All these things that I told you today, look it up yourself. Don't believe Dr. Vito. I highly encourage you to look up the endocannabinoid system and make the best decision for yourself. If you're interested in learning more about me, my Instagram handle is down there. You'll see that I literally breathe it. I'll know when I'm not meditating or if I'm having too much processed food. So I cannot stress enough the importance of getting back to baseline. And baseline is getting back to nature when it comes to plants, when it comes to healing. So thank you for this conversation. And I look forward to future conversations with you all.
Thank you, Dr. Denise. Dr. Kang, please tell us, how do we reach out to you?
Well, I want everyone to check out my YouTube page. I have lots and lots of testimonials there. It's a Grandpa's Secret testimonial. If you just put it on YouTube, I think my Facebook, my assistant know that. I think Grandpa's Secret. Everything Grandpa's Secret. You can put it on Facebook, Grandpa's Secret, Instagram, Grandpa's Secret, and you should be able to check out my work. My website is grandpasecret.com, and most of all my work, you know, it's there. Yeah.
Thank you both. I'm so grateful that you all took the time today to have this conversation with me and our audience. I am so impressed by you both. I know, you personally, and I'm so grateful to be able to have you, to be able to reach out to you. I know that everyone is looking for answers right now. And so thank you for sharing a little bit of your time and your knowledge about how we can get through this as a family. And I think some of the takeaways I want us our audience to take away today is do what's best for you. Go do your own research. Research the endocannabinoid system, research plant medicine, research meditation, talk to your ancestors, get back to nature, and really do what's best for you and your family. But do it based on your own knowledge and your own research. Don't just listen to us. We're just a few of the testimonies out there, but I want you to be your own testimony. So do the research yourself and reach out to these amazing people. Dr. Kang, thank you so much. Dr. Denise, thank you so very much. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you for being patient through my technical difficulties. And thank you, Eric, our chairman, CEO, for chiming in there. Thank you all for attending. And if you have any questions or any follow-ups, you can reach out to me. I am Cannabis Connection World on Instagram, or you can email us at M4MM United@gmail.com. Thanks again, everyone, and have a blessed day.